Hey there, welcome to NZ Money Karma, where you can find freedom from the daily grind through budgeting, simple living and adventure. Well, this is my, crikey, what are we up to? September budget. So I am a part of a family of four. I'm a mum, dad and two teenage kids living in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, New Zealand, and we set ourselves a kind of unrealistic goal, I guess, of living on $40,000 for the entire year. Now, it's not that living on $40,000 is impossible for us because we are mortgage free and we live a pretty frugal kind of money-saving, simple life for the most part. But, and here's the caveat now, but we have just had crazy expenses. We've had so many things go wrong in the last few months that we've had to use our emergency fund quite a lot, to the point where now we're just kind of downing tools and going, okay, now we need to, double down and actually top that up again. But this video is all about what we spent in the month of September as a family of four living in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, New Zealand. There's all sorts of things in there. Before I get cracking though on that video, I have a few gardening jobs that I need to do. So it's spring here in New Zealand, and can't neglect the garden or else you won't have any food in summertime. So give me 2 ticks, I'm going to get on and do that, and then I'll be back to take you through all our expenses for the month of September 2025. Okie doke, so let's start with this blimmin' car. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that we used to be a car-free family. In fact, we were a car-free family for many years, and just this year we bought this wee car. And yeah, it's already costing us quite a lot of money. Outside of just the normal running costs, this last month we spent $1,281.01 on it, and that included the vehicle registration, then a warrant and service, and it needed some things done. I don't even know what they meant by it, but something underneath had a crack in it that needed to be fixed, or else it couldn't get its warrant, and we spent $97.58 on petrol. So a huge difference from when we just had our bikes. Now, our motivation for getting the car was that our kids wanted to do some sports that would take them far and wide, places we couldn't bike to realistically on a regular basis. So we kind of tossed up, would we hire a car? And then we're like, no, there's still times, my kids, they do some training at like 6 o'clock in the morning. We're not going to hire a car for that. We're like, we could get an Uber or a taxi. And then we kind of sat down and did the sums and thought about the ease and maybe the fun we could have if we had a car and could go a bit further afield. And we decided to bite the bullet. Whether it's a good idea or not, time will tell. It's probably not a terrible idea, but it does kind of hurt every now and then when you get those big bills and you think, eek, if I didn't have the car, I wouldn't have to pay this bill. But that's what we have so far. Our hot water runs on gas, so we have our stove is on electric, but the hot water is all gas. And that came to $149 this month. Now, we go through about one of those big tanks a month. We always have 2 there, so that when one runs out, obviously you can switch it over to the other one. I would love to get rid of gas, but it's going to be, I guess it would cost us probably about $8,000 to change to a heat pump hot water system, or $10,000 to change to a solar hot water system, both of which I have investigated, but it's quite hard to make the change from something that's perfectly adequate and working okay to a whole new thing, versus if I had a renovation project, then I would go, straight for solar hot water, because I would already be spending the money on some kind of system. So that's what we have at the moment, $149, and we used one of those tanks of gas. So electricity and internet for us, here we go. So that's our stove that uses electricity, our lights. That went up this month. Now, it should have been a kind of a lowish cost month. Boiling the potatoes to make a potato top pie before I go to work for the kids for their tea. That's why that's on so early in the morning when I'm doing this. Our entire bill for electricity and internet this month was $194.54. Now, that's a good $25 more than our average during winter, and we're using less electricity because we're out more, because the weather's better. So that just is a reflection of increased prices, increased cost of, what everyone will call increased cost of living. Our power company did write to us and say our daily fixed charges were going to go up. So it might be time for a review of that, because up until now, we've been spending around $160, max $170 during winter for the month. I don't think that's very good, $194.04. But it is what it is. We've paid the bill, and that's what we spent in the month of September. One of the biggest costs, I guess, for a household with a mum, a dad and 2 teenage kids is going to be food costs. And we are probably no different from anyone else. Whilst I work really hard to keep our food budget under control, and I would consider myself really thrifty, and I'm pretty motivated to make sure that I buy raw ingredients and make everything from scratch, our food costs, they're still high. We spent $824.79 for the month of September. That included a few treats as well, not just pantry staples. So we had fish and chips one night, and I also did a post-braces morning tea for my daughter, where I just took her to the mall next door to the dental surgery, and I just said, what do you want for lunch? Let's have a bit of a treat and a bit of a celebration. And we spent $33.80 at Muffin Break and at a sushi shop on that day as well. So that's in total $824.79. That's all the regulars, like just normal supermarket. It's a quick little takeaway lunch, and I'll show you one other thing. That also included $109.86. Let's see if you can see in there. It's too dark, you can't see a thing. Let me show you. Oats. So I have this big 25 kg bag of jumbo oats. $109.86 for that. I spent $119.96 at the doctor relating to a injury of my left knee. So one of those costs was an x-ray. Not really necessary because they knew it wasn't broken, but it's just a tick box exercise. That only costs $20 because the other part of the cost is covered by ACC. And I got some crutches, which I am now very thankfully off. I'm not using those crutches, so that's good news. I'm able to walk around normally. The crutches, they were $55 to hire, and then I had a $35 expense for the actual doctor. That was also a co-pay because part of it is covered by ACC, and then $9.96 at Chemist Warehouse, and I can't tell you what that was for. I didn't take any anti-inflammatories or pain relief, so I'm not sure what I spent that money on, but I did. So all up, $119.96. Here's my wee dog. He's interested in what I'm doing. He had a groom this month, so that was $90 for a groom. He's lovely and soft. Hey, he's a very sweet dog, but he does get very, very woolly, and he looks like a little bear when he's like that, which I actually really love, but it's not as comfortable for him. So he needs a groom. Gosh, in winter time it's kind of like every 10 weeks. In summertime it'll have to be a little bit more regularly. But he's looking very smart. We had a few house costs this month also. Here we've got king seeds. That's part of my order. That was $46.75. These are the things I haven't yet planted because these will be seeds I just sprinkle straight into the garden. I already have onions. I bought those because I thought maybe my current onions wouldn't work, but they're all right. And radishes, everything else I've pretty much planted out into seedling trays, and I'm just waiting for them to, you can kind of see some things over there, wait for them to take off. We're almost up to planting time. I'm just trying to harden things off in the garden at the moment. So that was something I spent. What else did I spend on the house? Let me come and show you the next thing. This was part of our disasters that happened and some of the unexpected costs that were associated with that. When our shower exploded, I might just insert the video here so you can see what I mean. Yeah, that just spontaneously exploded one night about midnight. Honestly, gave us such a fright. I thought, what is happening? Anyway, when that spontaneously exploded, it meant we needed to take off the entire, shower walls, the glass bits, and have them replaced. That's still not ready. It's been a month, I guess. And yeah, still they don't have it for us. But anyway, it provided an opportunity for us. Up there you can see we have done a nice new paint job. We had peeling paint. It hadn't been sealed properly. We'd used a water-based sealer rather than an oil-based sealer. So we've been through and we've fixed all that. So we've bought paint and what have you for that section. And what did we spend there? $482.92. That was paint for in here and also paint for our fence, which I'm still working on. But anyway, let's focus on the exploding bathroom. So that provided a bit of an opportunity. So we fixed that. We repainted the bathroom. We got a new shower liner because we needed to change our shower slider. So this is where can you see? This is where the door will go. So we'll be able to open the door, turn on the water, and then the water will come out this way towards the other glass wall. But beforehand, if you notice in that kind of exploding shower video or photo that I've put there, the shower slider was on this wall. So you'd open the door still over here and the water would come right at you. So you had to be really quick to turn on the water and shut the door. And that was, I don't know why they did that. It was really annoying. And so we just decided that soon as we were having all of these walls off, let's just change it now while it's easier to do. So we did that, but there were some associated costs with doing that, of course. So we had to buy a new shower slider. That was $219, and then the paint. Yeah, I mean, it is all these things, they are what they are, like it was a good time to do it, but it just wasn't a time when we were expecting to spend that kind of money. Unrelated to the shower, but I've also put it under kind of the household expenses, was a professional registration. So that was $130. So we paid for that too. And then here we have the Crusaders. There's been a huge amount of controversy recently around this because last year for Christmas we bought our son a season pass. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was under $100. And with my husband's pass also, so they could go along together, it was just under $200, like something like $190 something for the entire season. This year, oh my goodness, this year it's $609. We had already been talking a lot about going to that and agreeing that yes, that is something we would carry on. We will have a different conversation this next year. But for this season, we have bought another season pass for my son and my husband, but to the tune of $609 each. Way more expensive than I think it's worth, and also my husband. But we kind of always feel that if we say we're going to do something, that we need to follow through with it, even if it really stretches us. But we won't be carrying on with it after this season. We'll pay for maybe the odd game, but not for the season pass. They said that it's going to go up again the following year, and it's just not worth it to us. Everywhere else in New Zealand, a season pass is under $100 for a kid, except for Christchurch. And I just think it's really rubbish, and it stinks to take something that's so much fun and such a big part of it living in the city and just make it unattainable. So we've stretched this year, but we won't stretch the following year. And there's probably heaps of people that would love to go along, but now can't. So I think that's really stink. And it's a reluctant cost, and one I don't feel super happy about. But we did it mostly because we had already talked about it, and also my daughter and I were off to see the world of wearable art. So I'm just going to do a photo to that. And then we had the World of Wearable Arts, and I spent $200 on food and transport and $197.10 for a hotel for one night. Of course, we had our craziest of crazy dental bills. Double down into that, $3,643. Ouch. Not, yeah, it was crazy. These are all the fillings that my husband had to get fixed. There's so many of them, and these are my workings on, basically how we could pay for them. So I'll be like, okay, we've saved that much, or we've taken that amount out of that fund to put into this account, what have you. There we go, $3,643. All done and dusted, all paid for now. So he's got very great teeth at the moment. And there are heaps of other expenses we had on my list here. So these are all the things that I otherwise didn't have a photo for, but I'm going to tell you about them anyway. So what have we got here? I spent $33.50 for a couple of drinks at a concert that we went to. We bought tickets to a concert. They were actually my husband's birthday present last year. That concert was just happened in September, so it was a long time to wait. But it was very cool, and he really loved it. It was worth the wait. But we spent $33.50 on a couple of drinks there. That is literally just a couple of drinks. I spent $55 on a ticket to a prize giving for my sports team. What else did we spend? $80 on something that I've written down and I can't read my writing, so I don't know what that was. $4.20 on posting a letter, so that was the stamp. $12 for a little watch. I don't even know what it's called. The bit that the strap goes through with the little hook that holds it in place. That was broken, so that cost $12 at the Swatch Watch shop. We made a $30 donation to some kids who asked for a donation. $40 on sports fees. $1,126.25 on school fees, so that's the last term's contribution for one of my kids, and $33 on a school photo. And I think that is everything that we spent in the month of September. And the grand total for that is $9,604.02. So, in short, we're doing really rubbish at sticking to our budget. That's all I can say about that. We're absolutely off the charts. We're nowhere near our $3,333 target. What would we be like if there weren't the emergencies? Just give me a second. I'm going to get the calculator out and figure out what we would have spent outside of what we've used from our emergency fund, because a lot of these costs were covered by our emergency fund rather than our weekly spend. Give me 2 ticks. Okay, I've quickly worked it out, and this is the answer. $4,015.39 if we didn't use our emergency fund. So that's a whole heap better. And that also includes all the things like that crazy Crusaders season ticket. It also includes the kids' school fees, all those big costs that we've already saved for. It includes those, because that's what we actually spent. But we're using a lot less of our money. So I'm not sure how to explain this properly to you guys. We are still not spending at this month, September, we haven't spent any more, we haven't taken any more out of our wages than $3,333. But we're spending more because we've been using our emergency fund. So what I do know is that spending only $40,000 a year will not be sustainable for the long term. We've had to use our emergency fund so many times this year that we're now topping it up again. And that's just not a sustainable way to live. So we're going to have to increase the budget for 2026 and just make sure that we have all those eventualities kind of covered. We need more money in our car fund, for example, because when something needed to be repaired, I didn't have the money for it. So things like that. I'm going to have to budget more money for fun, because at times we've used our emergency fund to cover those costs, and that's not ideal either. In fact, it's the opposite of what an emergency fund is for. So we'll get there. It's time for me to finish this potato top pie. I'm in my painting clothes because I'm going to go out and paint some of that fence before work. And then, I'm off to work, earn another $1, to propel my family forward and help us to retire early. I hope you guys have an awesome week. Let me know in the comments below what you think about our costs. They seem a bit cray-cray to me, so feel free to say it. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye for now.